threat for Josef Samael as his Samoan smashing machine readies to defend the title here tonight in Dallas.
Competitor. So why don't we bring out the sacrificial lamb?
Sparkle.
Yeah.
Okay. It doesn't look great. You guys keep bringing
the plastic surgery after the claw.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Oh, talk about plastic surgery!
Back, okay? The game plan stays the same, all right? This is your moment, Brian.
This against him and others for exhausted pre-match frisking for foreign weapons to inconsistent, shown more heart, more grit, more determination over the last few months ever since that epic battle with Loki. Smashing Machine is still Major League Wrestling World Heavyweight Champion. For Rich Bocchini, I'm AJ Kirsch. Good night from Dallas.
Welcome to MLW Tonight. As always, I'm your host, the wrestling snob, Adam Lavelle. And we're here to talk about MLW Fusion number 96, another top-notch, top-level show coming off the incredibly hot MLW Fusion 95, one of my absolute favorite episodes, but 96, not far behind in quality here, because we get a little package on our favorites, the Hart Foundation, Davey Boy Smith and Brian Pillman Jr., reminding us of how they've stood up to the Contra unit, something that very few in MLW have been able to do. They've stepped forward, they've taken the challenge, and they come out on top, at least last week, when we saw Davey Boy Smith defeat Simon Gotch in the no-holds-barred fight, no ropes, in the center of the ring, win by submission or knockout, and Davey Boy Smith takes out Contra unit Simon Gotch. And that has them fired up, because this has given Flying Brian Pillman Jr. a world title shot. Pillman Jr. will be taking on Jacob Fatu tonight in the main event for the MLW World Heavyweight title. And we get a package about that. We get a package telling us how Davey Boy Smith and Flying Brian Pillman are prepared. We get a package from the Contra unit promising that Brian Pillman will never defeat someone like Jacob Fatu. And the Sentai Death Squad just might be on hand to make sure it doesn't happen. This Death Squad is crazy, folks. We know who the members of Contra Unit are. We know that it's Josef Samael leading Jacob Fatu and Simon Gotch out to the ring. But who are these Sentai Death Squad people? They seem to be random devotees, disciples, that they have stationed throughout the world to do their bidding. Brian Pillman's head better be on a swivel. But we cut to the ring then after that, and we've got our first match coming up, but not before filthy Tom Lawler's going to come out in a Von Erich shirt in the middle of Dallas, Texas, to tell us all, including those devoted Von Erich fans, how rotten, how underhanded, how pathetic, and how selfish Ross and Marshall, and even Kevin Von Erich are. The fans chant for him to take the shirt off. They don't want someone like filthy Tom Lawler wearing a Von Erich shirt in the middle of Dallas, Texas, and filthy Tom agrees. But of course, there's always a catch. Not with Tom Lawler, there is. He takes the shirt off and in his disgusting, filthy ways, rubs it between his legs, spits on it, and throws it into the crowd. But much like you see at Wrigley Field, when someone who's visiting the Chicago Cubs hits a home run into the stands and the fans get the ball, they throw it back into the stadium. And here, the Dallas fans grabbed that shirt, that disgusting rag now, and threw it back at Tom Lawler. Tom Lawler, incensed, promises that Dominic Garrini, his new friend, his new signee to the Filthy Dojo, will take his frustrations out on his opponent, the luchador Zenshi. And that's the match we've got coming up here. The Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu artist, the purple belt, the crippler, the violent Dominic Garrini is going to have to try to slow down the leaping, jumping luchador Zenshi. And what a styles clash this was. But it was a styles clash that worked out, folks. I mean, this match was pretty entertaining. Dominic Garrini did his best to hold Zenshi down and apply leg locks and arm bars and choke holds. You know, your typical MMA fight style stuff. While Zenshi relied on his jumping, leaping, and lucha performance to try to dissify, or did I just create a word there? He tries to confuse and confound Dominic Garrini as he tries to capture and keep Zenshi from using such maneuvers. And this went on for a good 10-minute matchup until Dominic Garrini caught Zenshi in a wicked armbar, pretty much ripping his shoulder out of the socket or close to it. causing Zenshi to have to tap out. Then Filthy Tom Lawler, still angry about how the crowd reacted to him. Angry, I mean, the man is legitimately upset that people do not support him over the Von Erichs, who he claims are fake and selfish and ignorant and rude. And so he promises the MLW fans and everybody in the locker room that from this point forward, you will never see any mercy, no mercy from the Filthy Dojo going forward. This is going to be interesting, folks. It's something you're definitely going to want to keep your eyes on. Then we've got quick shots of the back up in the corner of the screen because no one was expecting this. Well, how could you not, honestly? But no one knew when and where it was coming. Brian Pillman Jr. is indeed attacked by what looks to be 2 or 3 members of the death squad of Contra Unit. Unbelievable. They're trying to take this kid out. I mean, is Jacob Fatu so afraid of a young Brian Pillman that he's got to get his death squad to attack him? Is Josef Samael so paranoid to have to face the young Brian Pillman Jr. that he just can't let Jacob Fatu take him on in a one-on-one match? It appears to be that way because he's attacked, and luckily Davey Boy Smith is there to help him and fend them off. So while they did get at him to a degree, it didn't look to be too terrible with Davey Boy Smith right there on hand. After that craziness was calmed down, we had an interview segment with one and only Alicia Atut as she is talking to the Dynasty. Now, they don't have Richard Holliday with them as he's preparing for an upcoming match against Savio Vega. So she's got MJF, Alexander Hammerstone, and Gina Medina with her. And sometimes, Alicia, my heart bleeds for you. It was a very interesting interview, a very fun interview. But they had a major announcement to make. As a matter of fact, Alexander Hammerstone dubbed himself the Ice Cream Man. Why? Because he had a huge scoop for Alicia Atut. And Alicia tells him, okay, Ice Cream Man, tell us what this is. Well, it is a good scoop. It is an interesting story. Alexander Hammerstone announces, as MGF celebrates in the background like a 5-year-old at Christmas time, that the Dynasty has been given the rights to produce next week's MLW show. So next week's MLW show, MLW Fusion number 97, will be a Dynasty-produced program where every match will have a member of the Dynasty. We've got Gino Medina taking on Septimo Dragon, managed by Conan. That's going to be interesting. Gino Medina turned on Conan to join the Dynasty, so that's going to be an interesting matchup. We've got the one and only Alexander Hammerstone, and he's going to be getting in there with Aerostar, a futuristic luchador, or so he claims to be, and Hammerstone promises to ground him. We don't know who Richard Holliday is. Oh, yes, we do. MJF and Richard Holliday are going to get a World Tag Team title shot against Ross and Marshall Von Erich. So we're going to have a very dynastic fusion next week, and it's going to be interesting. And then we've got the matchup this week. Richard Holliday taking on Savio Vega. Savio Vega has come to MLW to defend, to stand beside his good friend Conan, and he's going to take on Richard Holliday here. Now look, Richard Holliday comes to the ring and he's going to take this match so serious that he removes his AirPod earpieces. The AirPod God doesn't often remove those unless he's getting serious. He removes them and gives them to his friend MJF, who is here to assist on commentary. And we've got a matchup here that was pretty solid, but honestly, what I enjoyed before the match started was Richard Holliday actually confronted Savio Vega about wearing a vest, his Puerto Rican colored and symboled vest, to wrestle in. I've questioned that before. Look, I'm the wrestling snob. There's entrance gear and there's wrestling gear. You take your entrance gear off when you wrestle, Savio, okay, buddy? Richard Holliday confronts him about that. Savio pushes him off, and the match, the fight, the battle is on. Savio Vega, for his age, is still pretty good in the ring, can go pretty solidly, put up a pretty solid fight, but fell whenever the market crash took him down. Now, if that wasn't bad enough, it was on this episode, back in, I can't remember, it's been about 7-8 months now, 7-8 months ago, Richard Holliday stole the Caribbean Heavyweight Championship. Took the belt, hauled it off, claims to be the Caribbean Heavyweight Champion now. This was not a championship match, but Richard Holliday is using his lawyer / father to fight for his rights to keep and defend that Caribbean Championship. And ever since this day, all those months ago, Richard Holliday and his lawyer / father has been bothering, threatening to sue, threatening to take to court MLW and Court Power if they don't recognize the Caribbean title inside the rankings of MLW and him as champion. This is where that all started, folks. If you want to go back in time and say, hey, what happened? Why is Richard Holliday walking around with the Caribbean Championship? This is the fusion to check out to see how that all occurred. But the big win here comes with the market crash from Richard Holliday. That's got to move him up the rankings. That's a big win over Savio Vega, also now the self-proclaimed Caribbean champion. During this match, though, it is announced. It's kind of cool. This is one of the things MLW does that is unlike any other wrestling programs, if you will. It is announced during the match that the arena, the venue, is in lockdown to try to stop the Death Squad that has attacked Brian Pillman, to try to find out who is behind that and to keep them in the building. It was just done very interesting. It wasn't done with a hidden camera. It wasn't done with an invisible camera, if you will. It was just subtly announced during this matchup that the arena was in lockdown due to that event. Nice little subtle touches that MLW does that no one else does. Great stuff. I really enjoyed that. Next, we got another interview with Brian Pillman and Davey Boy Smith, both juniors, talking about they're trying to pump up Brian Pillman for his match against Jacob Fatu. It is a world title matchup. In comes Ross and Marshall Von Erich, promising to have Pillman's back in this, that they will protect him, that they will watch out for this Shinobi Death Squad, that they will watch out for Josef Samael interfering or Simon Gotch or anyone, that they have his back. And Brian Pillman thanks him, saying that while he's confident that he can go toe-to-toe with Jacob Fatu, he definitely knows that he needs the help and he needs the support, and he's going to get it from his friends. Next, we got a little bit of a little piece, a little hint, just a little tease. That Killer Cross, you might know him under a different name now in that company up north, but Killer Cross is going to be stopping in at MLW on his way to the WWE universe. He's going to stop in. It's going to be enjoyable. It's going to be fun. We'll talk about that when it happens, but we just get a little promo package about Killer Cross being on his way. And right after that, we get another shocking, where's Alexander Hammerstone, the Ice Cream Man, giving us these scoops as we find out that MLW is also going to be working with Dragon Gate, one of the most popular, if not the most popular organizations in all of Japan, probably right behind New Japan Pro Wrestling, is Dragon Gate. They have agreed to work with MLW, and I'm sure when we restart in November, we're going to be seeing some of that as time goes on, and that's going to be some exciting stuff. We had a review here, a review of the past show where Gino Medina about a month ago joined the Dynasty, turning on Conan, and we got that little reminder because next week he's taking on Septimo Dragon, being managed, being escorted to the ring by Conan. So again, the Dynasty produced episode next week, ML Fusion number 97, is going to be Septimo Dragon taking on Gino Medina in what should be a pretty hot matchup, being that there's something so personal involved. And here we got Injustice coming out next with Myron Reed. We got a little package saying that they have petitioned the league to look into the officiating. They feel that they have been ripped off, they have been cheated, they've been treated unfairly, and they want something done about it. Well, surprisingly, at least to me, to this journalist, to this wrestling snob, the league agrees. It has been announced that referees will go under further training. They will go under further scrutiny. They will be graded in their performances, and only the highest graded and most scrutinized referees will get title matches and pay-per-view matches. So Injustice, in their petitioning, in their not-so-peaceful protests at time, have managed to move the league to do something about this so-called crooked officiating. Now, I will admit, if you go back and watch the tape from last week, that when Myron Reed faced Drago, there was a time right at the end of the match where he had Drago pinned and the referee counted to 2 and just stopped. And then began the count again and counted to 3. That was strange. That was odd. That did seem to point to Injustice having a few bones to pick that are a little legitimate. So let's keep an eye on what's going on with that. And we've got an announcement. Again, there's some news just flashing at us here before the main event. We have an announcement that's on March 13th. We will see a super show between AAA, the major Mexican company where Conan's one of the head guys, taking on MLW in a clash of companies. That's coming up in March, a few months from where we are right now in 2020 as we go over these past MLW fusions. What you have to look forward to before the shutdown, before COVID struck as hard as it could, was MLW and AAA. Multiple matches where these companies clash and go at it. That's going to be exciting. That's coming up. And this is where we got the announcement that it was on its way. So stay tuned for that in the future. And then we've got a little short interview where Alicia Atut is in the back with Mance Warner. Mance Warner standing there with one of his light bears. You know, one of his light bears he just likes so much. And Alicia asks him a simple question. She says, Mance Warner, what are your thoughts on the dynasty? Now, Alicia Atut, I don't know what you're doing. You're causing a little bit of trouble. Why are you planting seeds here? What gives Mance Warner the right to just start challenging the dynasty, especially the national openweight champion? But, you know, some of these journalists, unlike the Snob, have got to get involved and sprinkle a little dissent in the world of professional wrestling. Nothing against you, Alicia, but let's be honest. Mance Warner just sips his beer numerous times, I guess trying to put the question through his head, and finally just looks right into the camera and says, assholes. Brilliant take from Mance Warner. Gives Alicia Atut a beer and walks off. So we're just planting seeds that Mance Warner wants the dynasty. He wants to go one-on-one with these guys. He's already said he wants a shot at the national openweight title. Good luck with that, buddy. I guess it would be a good match, but is Alexander Hammerstone going to lose to Mance Warner? Do you ever anticipate that? I've got to try to be unbiased, but it's a struggle. And we've got a quick shot of Zenshi in the back being treated by an EMT. Shoulder clearly bothering him, as I said earlier in the match. Dominic Garrini pretty much ripped his arm out of the socket or close to it. He was getting some treatment from the EMT, promising that he would get revenge, wanting the Filthy Dojo, wanting to take on Garrini again, or Tom Lawler, or anyone of that group that he can get his hands on. Zenshi, you better get some backup, brother. You're a great wrestler, and I think there's bigger things in store for you as we move on in MLW, but that's jumping into the deep end of the pool, pal. Finally, after a bunch of interviews and some scoops, which were very entertaining and very informative, we've got the main event. The question was raised, could Flying Brian Pillman Jr. do something that his dad never could? And that was win a World Heavyweight Championship. Now, Brian Pillman isn't a heavyweight, but he's getting a shot here. And folks, let me tell you, it was probably one of the best matches I've ever seen Flying Brian Pillman have. It was right up there with his match against Davey Boy Smith in the finals of the Opera Cup, which the commentating team brought up several times. To a good point, fellas. Brian Pillman seems to be able to really step up in the bigger matches. If you'll notice, as you work some of these other companies, he's been struggling. I'm beginning to wonder if Brian Pillman Jr. wrestles down to his competition and up to his competition. So when he's in this other company, you know, seeing what he can do, if you know what I'm talking about, he struggles. He's not done so well. I suspect, because it can be a rookie mistake, that Brian Pillman wrestles to the level of his competition. You put him in there with some curtain jerkers, you put him in there with some low-card guys, and that's how he wrestles. You put him in there with Davey Boy Smith Jr., and now you put him in there with Jacob Fatu, and he wrestles amazingly. He wrestles up to their level, and that's what we saw here. We saw Jacob Fatu clearly frustrated several times. Now, don't get me wrong, there were numerous times where Fatu had total control of this match, throwing Pillman around like a rag doll. But Pillman kept fighting back like a Ricky Morton, as you might have seen back in the NWA Jim Crockett promotion days. That's who Pillman reminded me of in this match. That's the way he fought. He kept getting beaten down, but he always came back. So bad that the Shinobi Death Squad tries to interfere again, but Ross and Marshall Von Erich stopped them. Okay? And now Pillman, you know, he's really getting excited because he's got this match in hand. I'm not saying that I know beyond a shadow of a doubt he was going to win it, but he was moving in a very positive and up direction, and Jacob Fatu was frustrated because no matter how much he beat him down, he couldn't keep him down. But here comes Myron Reed and Jordan Oliver of Injustice. I mean, clearly not a part of conquering it, but hating Brian Pillman Jr. so bad. They come out, Oliver distracts the referee, Myron Reed takes that loaded, which it's suspiciously loaded, I better be careful what I say or I'll end up suing MLW Tonight, takes that chest protector off that he's so fond of wearing in the ring and nails Pillman in the head with it twice, throws him back into the ring where Jacob Fatu hits him with 2 of his leaping moonsaults off the top rope. and gets the 1, 2, 3. I mean, this was a very good matchup. I very much enjoyed it. Like I said, Brian Pillman wrestles up or down to his competition. To me, that's clear. Was on his way, if not to victory, at least an incredible showing. It was still a good showing. He was on his way to an incredible showing. He was, whenever the Von Erichs and Davey Boy Smith stopped the interference of the Contra unit, here comes Injustice to mess things up. They talk about Injustice and then do things like this. I don't know. Kind of hypocritical there, guys. But Brian Pillman loses to Jacob Fatu in what was a very solid match up until the very end. Hopefully he'll get a shot in the future again to see what he can do, maybe in a cage, maybe somewhere where someone can't interfere. But it was a good match with Contra unit standing tall at the end once again. Folks, it was another great MLW Fusion. You can't miss these shows. If you've already watched them again and come back and join us here as we talk about them. We're on our way to the restart in November. Please send me a friend request on Facebook. Look for me on Twitter. I have every breaking news from MLW. I will get it for you. I get everything out of Court Bauer's mouth, and I will post it for you. I'm here to put MLW over, to bring you in as a fan, and help you enjoy it even more, if that's at all possible. So thanks for joining us again this week, and I'll see you again next week here on MLW